next spring story I want to read is called Robins, How They Grow Up by Eileen Christelow. Robins, How They Grow Up. Who are we? We're robins. Our black and white speckles mean we're young, a few months old, robin teenagers. Why are we living in your yard? Well, here's the story. First, let's tell about Dad's long trip. You mean before we were born? At the end of winter, the days stay light longer and the robins grow restless. They know it's time to start new families. But first, they must head north, where the ground is thawing after a long winter. Soon there will be plenty of food for new babies, fat earthworms, newly hatched insects, and in a few months, a fresh crop of fruit. All across the country, the males set out first, millions of them, including Dad. They stop to eat and sleep along the way. It's a dangerous and exhausting trip. Dad escaped from a hungry falcon, and he was held up by a storm. A couple of weeks and a few hundred miles later, Dad arrives in a familiar area, not far from where he raised a family last year. Now he needs to find a place to call his own. He looks for safe places to build nests and to hide from predators, and for water and good wormy soil. Dad chooses a spot with plenty of trees and a lawn full of juicy worms. This is my place, my place, my place, he sings. A few other males try to move in too, but Dad chases them next door. Why didn't Dad want to share? He needed his own place to raise a family. A few weeks later, female robins show up, including Mom. She hears Dad singing and meets him over a breakfast of delicious worms. He looks strong and healthy, the perfect father for baby robins, so she sticks around. Dad doesn't chase her away. Males have darker heads. Females are a slightly lighter color. After resting from her long trip, Mom searches for a safe place to build a nest. Somewhere protected from predators and rain, she chooses a hoe in an open shed. Why not build the nest in a tree? No leaves yet, so the choices were an evergreen tree or that shed. She makes hundreds of trips with beakfuls of straws, twigs, dry leaves, even a piece of red string. She squishes in lots of mud with her feet and wings to hold everything together. After a few days, she has a bowl-shaped nest. When the mud is dry, she lines it with soft grasses. A nest is a cradle for baby birds. Mom lays one fertile blue egg each day. 4 days later, she's ready for her next job. What did Dad do? He fertilized the eggs and protected the nest. Mom sits on her eggs, keeping them warm so baby birds will grow inside. She turns the eggs often so the temperature stays even. Otherwise, the babies might stick to the shell. She warmed the eggs against a patch of skin on her belly. That's her brood patch. When Mom leaves the nest to find food, she can't stay away for long. One day, when Mom is away, a squirrel invades our nest. Luckily, Mom discovers him before he devours all the eggs. Dad pursues him into the woods, pecking at his behind. Now only 3 eggs remain. Squirrels eat robins' eggs? Yep, and so do blue jays, crows, and snakes. Mom sits on those eggs for 13 days. Then the first one she laid begins to crack. A tiny egg tooth on a tiny beak appears. Tap, tap, tap. It's a baby, pushing its way out. Mom carries away bits of shell. Then the baby needs to rest under her warmth before struggling again. Hours later, there's an exhausted, naked baby robin, barely able to lift its head for food. By the next day, there are 3 of us, a tangle of helpless babies covered with white, downy fluff. Our eyes are still closed, but when we feel the nest rock slightly, we open our orange beaks wide. Is it Mom? Dad? Feed me! We're hungry all the time. We ate baby food, regurgitated worms. Yum. 6 days old, our eyes are open. Our feathers are just beginning to emerge. We can eat grown-up food, pieces of worms, caterpillars, and moths. Feed me, feed me! Soon after we eat, we poop little white sacks, which Mom and Dad eat or carry away. They make trip after trip, back and forth, always keeping an eye on our nest. They had to keep our nest clean. Yeah, who wants to sleep in poop? The first week, when we don't have many feathers, Mom sits on us at night and at times during the day, keeping us warm and dry. It's cozy under there. 8 days old, more feathers. Each one grows out in a sheath that looks like a tiny straw. As we move around, preen and scratch, the sheaths crumble into pieces and our feathers unfold. Feathers keep us warm and dry and help us fly. Over 2 weeks, we eat about 350 insects and 14 feet of worms each. All that food makes us grow quickly. We're almost as big as Mom and Dad. Robins don't have teeth. We grind up food in our gizzard. Food goes down the esophagus, which expands for large pieces. 14 days old? For a couple of days, we've been flapping our wings and standing on the edge of the nest. Today, one of us takes off. A few hours later, another follows. Now one is left all alone. He hears his brother calling, so he perches on the edge of the nest. It's a long way down. He flaps his wings, pushes off, and he's flying, flapping, falling, flying, falling, down, down, down. Thump, hop, hop, hop. Where is everyone? Mom flies down, chip, chip, chip. Follow me. Then suddenly, chip, 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 calls Dad. Danger, danger, danger. Where? Our brother hops, flaps, and flutter flaps as fast as he can, taking refuge among some tall plants. He stays very still, his heart pounding. Finally, Mom shows up with a succulent moth. Cats kill lots of baby birds. 15 days old. We're back together. Mom and Dad keep us hidden under tall plants. We're partially camouflaged by our speckled feathers. We are helpless. We don't know how to find food. We can barely fly. We don't know anything. Mom and Dad had to teach us. Mostly Dad. Mom was building a new nest for more babies. How do we learn to fly? We hop, run, flap, 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 strengthening our wings and legs. After a few days, we can fly short distances. Our tail feathers are still growing in. Tail feathers help with steering and balance. Strong wings gives us the power to lift off the ground. When we can fly well enough, Dad leads us to a special tree nearby, where we spend the night with other robin dads and their kids. It's a roost, a flock of birds looking out for one another. Sleeping in the roost is safer, and we met other robins. 3 weeks old. We are stronger, bigger, and we have full tail feathers. But we still depend on Dad for food. In the early morning, when he goes hunting for worms, we follow, waiting to be fed. But Dad couldn't feed us forever, because soon there would be new babies to feed. Dad starts dropping the worms, and we have to find them. We poke, peck, scratch. Then we learn a trick. If we tilt our heads, we can see and hear better. With a little practice, we're finding moths, spiders, caterpillars, and worms. Our eyes are on the sides of our heads. Yeah, I'm looking right at you. 6 weeks old. Now we can find our own food, but it's hard work. Sometimes we still want Dad to feed us. This time, it's our brother begging, cheep, cheep. Dad ignores him. He's listening. See, see, see. It's another robin alerting us to an intruder. Dad darts away. Chip, 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 chip. He warns. 2 of us escape into a tree, but our brother continues. Cheep, 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 cheep. Cheep, cheep. Whoosh. We hear beating wings, a hawk, a shriek. Then it's quiet. Our brother is gone. Mom and Dad chase the hawk, scolding and screaming, but he flies away, our brother dangling from his talons, a meal for hungry hawk babies. Hawk babies eat mice, chipmunks, and birds. We stay very still. Eventually, the shrieking stops. The woods return to normal. We hear Dad call, chip, 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 chip. We answer, cheep, cheep, cheep. It doesn't take long for him to find us. We were learning robin talk so we could communicate with other birds. Dad leads us to a nearby stream. We flap and splash, ruffling our feathers so the water gets down to our skin. We feel much better. We dry off in the sun, preening, oiling, smoothing, and realigning our feathers and nibbling away any remaining dirt or itchy fleas. We take oil from a gland at the base of our tail. We need clean, oiled feathers if we want to fly and stay warm and dry. 8 weeks old. We're almost grown up. We spend our days flying around with friends from the roost, always watching the older robins, listening and learning. We were learning how to be robins. We're still learning. If we hear a mob of scolding robins, we fly over to watch from a safe distance. Usually they're hassling the neighborhood owl. They didn't want him near their nests because he might eat their babies. 3 months old. Now there are more robins around, new fledglings, and the moms have joined us. There won't be any more babies or nest building until next year. The robins aren't squabbling over territory or protecting new broods. They're friends again, moving around together. Then we make another discovery. We always watched to see where the older robins found food. We saw them hanging out in that tree. We fly over and find them grabbing crab apples. We watch carefully, then try to grab some too. Picking fruit is almost as tricky as catching worms. At first, it's easier to eat what drops on the ground. Now we're eating crab apples and berries. As it gets colder, worms and insects will disappear. 5 months old. The robins are getting ready for winter. We're stuffing ourselves with food, growing fatter and stronger. And we're molting, replacing old, worn-out feathers with new ones. Everyone is restless. Is something about to change? Hey, you're losing your speckled feathers. So are you. We're molting. With fresh new feathers to keep us warm, we could stay here all winter. But in cold northern winters, worms burrow deep underground and insects disappear. There's less fruit left on the trees. So most of our flocks start to wander south, where our favorite foods will be easier to find. Of course, we follow. And that's our life so far. We'll be back next year. The end. That was a lot of information about robins, wasn't it?